This week on Machinery PTV, looking for augers? We've got them on today's sale, including this in-demand Big Blue Brandt 1070. A bit of John Deere history finds a home on the dealership floor. And another chapter begins for a famous International 1566.
Your machinery is a serious investment and at the heart of every farming operation. Some call it a passion. We're Machinery PTV, and today we'll cover everything from auction roundups to the classics to the latest trends and technology. Machinery Pete, the most trusted name in farm equipment.
Machinery Pete thanks these premier sponsors for their support. Sullivan Auctioneers. Let our team of professionals show you how to make your auction a success. Visit sullivanauctioneers.com. Hey folks, welcome to the land of Lincoln. We're in Virginia, Illinois to cover a farm estate auction today, not too far from Springfield, the state capital. Now on today's show, we're going to feature a pair of John Deere tractors, including a 1975 4030 open station. Now before we watch those babies sell, we got to throw it back to the studio, catch up on the latest farm equipment news.
Thanks, Greg. I'm Clinton Griffiths. Optimism about current agricultural conditions is pushing the Farmer Sentiment Index to all-time highs, according to the latest Purdue CME Ag Economy Barometer. The February survey of 400 agricultural producers rising to 168. That's a 1-point increase from January, but up 18 points since December.
Farmers retained most of the optimism that they exhibited in January with respect to the index of future expectations. That index fell slightly to a reading of 175, but that was just a 4-point decline from January's 179 reading.
Researchers also asking farmers about land values. Nearly 60% of producers said they expect farmland values to go up. It was the most positive response to that question since data collection started back in 2015. A developing story we're following. Reuters reporting the EPA will soon make an announcement when it comes to a recent court decision on biofuel waivers. Wheeler saying the department is working with attorneys at EPA and at the Department of Justice. He says the decision needs to be made by next week. Earlier this year, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit ruled exemptions granted to 3 refineries overstepped the EPA's authority because refiners had not previously been granted waivers. Renewable fuels groups have fought against the waivers, which they say cut down on demand for their fuels, such as ethanol. Check out this monster lake trout that Thomas Knight reeled in, shattering a decades-old state record. The previous record, 28 pounds, set back in 1958. Now, Knight's fish weighed in at 37.65 pounds. A New Hampshire Fish and Game Department saying it's the largest lake trout caught in all of New England. Now let's take a look at some recent auction prices from around the country. That's it for news. Now back to our host, Machinery Pete.
Hey, stay with us folks. Coming up, you don't want to miss this nice loader tractor, a 2011 John Deere 6115D, only 906 hours on it, selling with an H310 loader.
Very successful farm, great people, great to work with, and it shows from the crowd. And I think there's a lot of people here supporting you, Penny. So, nice stuff.
Well, folks, last year the average auction price on a John Deere 6115D tractor actually fell 31%, down to $26,835. But a lot of the ones we saw last year sold down south, consignment auctions, higher hours. Now on today's auction, a different deal. We got an 11 model, only 906 hours, selling with an H310 loader with a 6-foot material bucket.
41 pounds, 41 still out of there, 41.
12 hours is right. 41,000. 41. I got 40 down powder to come on to the on in the video. That's 41 down powder all in, all down to the 41, 42. Grand winner. Under the 41 5, sir. 41 5. Under the 41 5. 41 5. Under the 41 5. Under the 5. Under the 41 5. Under the 41 5. 41 5. Under the 42 5. Under the 42 5. Under the 42 5. Round again. 42 5. Under the 3 3 3 3,000. Under the 42 5. Under the 3 down down to the 3 3 3 3,000. Under the all about condition and age and hours, folks. 43,000. 42 5. Under the 3. Under the 42 5. Under the 3. Under the 3 3 3. Under the 3 again. Under the 3 3 3. Think of it. Under the 2 5 3,000. 42 5. Under the 43 down down to the 3 3 3. But it all done. Under the 42 5. Ladies sit down with the gamble high. 42 5. There's hit a bit of a give it a more at 43 down down to the 9. Final call at 43,000 down to the market. Silver tractor out of there at 42,500.
Hey folks, I'm here with Matt Sullivan with Sullivan Auctioneers. Now Matt, when we talk used equipment conditions and what the market is, I'm really interested in your background because you worked on the dealer side for how many years with Martin Sullivan?
I did for about 7 years with Martin Sullivan.
Okay,
yeah.
so you were selling iron.
Sold equipment. Yep.
And now you've been back with Sullivan Auctioneers for how many years?
Since the fall of 2015 I came back.
Okay.
Yep.
And as busy as you guys are, gosh, traveling the country, having sales, what's your take here early 2020 on the used market?
Early 2020 has been good so far. Maybe not as, the December, like you've said 100 times, is probably the ultimate or the best, it seems like. But
Year-end buyers.
with that being said, good used equipment is hard to find.
Right.
Still sells well. The new stuff keeps getting more expensive, so it just drives the price of the used equipment up.
Just what do you love about dealing with farm equipment most?
I just love equipment of all colors and shapes and makes. I really do. We grew up with it. Don't really farm, but this is our farming, driving this stuff and looking at it and all the different options. I really enjoy it. I really do. I wouldn't want to do anything different. Yeah.
And you're getting to see the whole country, like where your sales are too.
Yep, and you meet with different people and hear their stories and how they do it and how they've made it in the good old days. Right. Hard work. They didn't start with anything. They did it themselves and proud of what they did, and they should be.
Okay folks, we're going to do something a little different for you today. We don't often feature augers, but today we are. A Brandt 1070 70 foot by 10 inch swing away auger 540 PTO. Now the average auction price on the last 17 of these I've seen sold, $4,708.
Under the 4, 4,500, down to the 42 and a half, down 5, 47 and a half, 5,000. Under the 5 and a half, never going to do. Under the 5, now 52 and a half, 50, now 5,500. Under the 55, under the 2 and a half, 7 and a half, 57 and a half, under the bit now $6,000. 2 and a half, under the 60, 2 and a half, out again, where? 65, 7 and a half, out again, Jeff. 67 and a half, under the 67 and a half, $7,000. Under the 7, now 2 and a half, 72 and a half, 72 and a half, under the 7 down, under the 2 and a half, under all down, 72 and a half, 7 down, under the 10, 7 down, under the 72 and a half, 7,000. Here's what I'm going to give it more at 72.50 tomorrow. Now 7,500 Ashland, Illinois. Now 77 and a half. He's working it on me. 75 77 and a half. One more time, old buddy. 77.50. One more time. Sold it to the internet. 7,500 going to Ashland, Illinois.
Here are a few more items that sold on today's sale.
Sold it 700 on site. I'm going to 2100 out of the 2 to get down. I'm all down. 22 and a half, 22 and a half, 22 and a half. First three, you got a lighter. 22 and a half, 22 and a half. So one down, 23 and a half, and a 23. Sold it 22.50, 22.50. For Dino, 37 and a half. For that, mid 8 and a half, 38.50, 38.50, 37 and a half. And a made that brace those hands. We're going to get 38 and a half, and a 38 and a half, and it all in on 38.50. Sold it 37.50. 27 and a half, and a 3, but 8 and a half. You get 28 and a half, you get 28.50. Y'all in all done. 27 and a half, and a 8.50, but 28.50 to 1 of it 8.50. Sold it 27.50 in the back. 81.82. 81.82. 81 and a 82. And a 2 and a half. You get 2 and all in all done. And a 81 and a 82. And a 2 and a half. Sold it. I sold a Matthew 8100 on 16 and 8100.
Let the proven performance of Prosaro fungicide maximize your grain quality, yield, and profit this season. Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Hey folks, Machinery Pete here in my hometown of Rochester, Minnesota. Down at Adamson Motors, our good friends here. A little work done to my Ram pickup, which is running like a top. And I'm here with Wayne Nielsen, the body shop manager. And inspirational story here. Wayne, I got a note when I went to pick up my keys at the dealership here, and they said, hey, Wayne wants to talk to you. Now Wayne, your dad Earl has his 90th birthday coming up next month, April, right?
In April, yeah.
April 29th?
Correct.
Okay, and Pop is still farming.
He's still farming, yeah. He's got his seed and chemicals and all ready to go.
And I understand Pop has overcome a couple amazing physical challenges here recently. A new knee.
Yeah, he had a new knee replaced back in January of last year.
Okay.
And then when he was in recovery from that, he had a stroke and had to go through some real tough stuff with that. And we didn't know if he was going to pull through or not. And the doctor he had was amazing. And she sat in his bed and said, you've worked hard all your life, Earl. If you want to come back from this, you're going to have to fight harder than you've ever worked before.
Wow.
She asked Dad if he was up for that, and he had tears coming down his eyes, and he nodded yes, he was.
Wow. Hey folks, welcome back to Tractor Tales. This week we're out west in Longmont, Colorado. Real treat for you here. I've got Cody MacArthur with Four Rivers Equipment here. Great John Deere dealer. And Cody, in your beautiful dealership here in the front display area, we've got a treat. Why don't you tell us about it?
So this is a 1925 Model D with a spoke flywheel that belongs to my family. The tractor was one of the first tractors that we had on the farm when we homesteaded in eastern Colorado in the late 1920s. Okay. And then it was sold at a farm sale in about 1940. Okay. And by then my great uncle had started a John Deere dealership in Flagler, Colorado.
What was your great uncle's name?
His name was Harold MacArthur.
And the name of the dealership?
It was MacArthur Implement Company.
Okay.
So
sold in 1940.
Sold in 1940 at a farm sale. Yep. He knew who had it and he traded it back in about 1970.
30 years gone.
30 years gone. He traded the tractor back in, and it sat around the dealership for a while. And then in 1988, the town of Burlington, where it was at, opened up a museum called Old Town. Okay. So Prairie Museum, full of old tractors, Western history. So this tractor sat in there for years. Okay. Eventually, they were going to move the tractor collection outside. So that's when we picked the tractor up, brought it back to the store, and then had a full restoration done a few years later.
What do people say when they come into the dealership? All this beautiful modern machinery, which does fantastic things for your customers, but here you have a 1925D. What do they say?
Wow is usually the first thing. We get there's a lot of two-cylinder fans in the area, and we get a lot of thank yous for having something like this, a piece of history in the dealership that we celebrate.
Well, folks, you love open station tractors from the 70s? Then stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this. A 75 model John Deere 4030. This thing's got 5,177 hours on it. No other cornhead works like a Drago or pays you back like one. Visit your Drago dealer and see how you can justify owning a Drago on ROI alone. Well, folks, one of the hottest little sub-trends I've seen in the last year and a half, open station tractors from the 70s and 80s, a lot of interest in them. Now, the last year, I've seen 3 John Deere 4030 open stations sold at auction. They went for $8,250, $8,700, and $11,000. But they all had a little bit higher hours. Today, our feature item, 75 model, 5,177 hours.
92.50. I'm going to down, down, 92, 90, 5, 7, 97 now. 95, 7, 95. You're going to 7, 95, no, down, 7 now. I'm going to 10, 10, 10, down, down, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 7, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 50. I'm going to 10, 10, 10, 5, 10, 5, down, 7, 10, hello, Indiana. $11,000 in Iowa, 11,000. 11, internet's lit out, down, 11, 11, 11, hello, Roush Farm, now 750. 11, 500 down, 7, 11,000, 750, do you hold it? 12, down, now 12, 2 and a half. 12, down, 12, 2 and a half. 12,250, 12,250, all done, ladies and gentlemen, the hammer's high. 12, now 5, that was close, now 12,5, now 12,750, 12,7 back to the Roushes out of Indiana, 12,007 after Roush Family Farms, 12,750, 12,500, 12,500, how about you, Minneapolis, Iowa, 12,700, all done, ladies and gentlemen, in the middle, at 12,750, 12,700 and a half, final call at 12,750. Sold the tractor, 12,500 to Kirkland, Illinois.
Well, folks, the last 2 years, I've seen a cluster of decent condition John Deere 4030s selling right in that 12 to 15,000 range at auction. And hey, that's right where we wound up today on our feature item, the 75 model open station, showing 5,177 hours, winds up going for 12,500. Well, folks, you might remember the famous tractor from season 2 of our Machinery Pete TV show, the 1975 International 1566 that had only 450 actual original hours on it. Now, this sold on Carmen Start's Farm Retirement Auction, August 14th, 2014, in little Ostrander, Minnesota. Went for $45,000, obviously a new record high sale price there. It was great fun to watch it sell. Now, very unique historic tractors like this, it's fun to kind of keep tabs on them through the years. Now, on that auction back 6 years ago, Chuck Tesh, a well-known dealer and collector from Wisconsin, was the buyer. Now, recently we just learned that Chuck sold the tractor to his friend Steve Hansen from Neenah, Wisconsin. And Steve reached out, sent me a note along with a bunch of pictures, and Steve was just overjoyed to get this tractor on his farm. And you can see some of the beautiful pictures of this 1566. It's all the way up to 453 hours on it now. Steve had to take the duals off to get it inside his shop so we could kind of shine it and buff it up. But what a beautiful tractor. Now, interesting story here. Steve, unlike most tractor collectors, did not grow up on a farm. Now, his folks, when he was a little guy, would take him up to his dad's cousin, who Steve called Uncle Bucky, in Rice Lake, Wisconsin. And Uncle Bucky did have a farm. And so young Steve would go out there, and he learned to drive a tractor when he was 6 years old on an International or Farmall 460. And they also had a Farmall 1256. Now, as Steve grew up, his love of tractors just blossomed, and he actually rescued this 1256 from the farm, Uncle Bucky's farm there, years later. Here's a before picture, and then you can see the beautiful restoration work that Steve did to put it in basically parade condition. Beautiful tractor. And Steve's collection of International tractors has grown over the years. He also owns a very unique 1066 front wheel assist, and that 1256. And again, now this historic 1566 with 453 hours on it. And I told Steve, hey, don't be a stranger. Send me pictures and video when you take that thing out on the parade trail. Well, folks, back 30 years ago when I started compiling auction prices, I started to notice Central Illinois always had some of the strongest prices, and it made sense. This was before the internet. It just seemed like they were pulling buyers from every direction. And of course, now with the internet, with good condition equipment, they will find it, and they definitely found it on today's sale. I hope you enjoyed our visit to Central Illinois. We'll see you back here next week on Machinery Pete TV. Machinery Pete thanks these premier sponsors for their support. Sullivan Auctioneers. Let our team of professionals show you how to make your auction a success. Visit sullivanauctioneers.com.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.